This is Democracy Watch. So, Mark, we've got drama in Ohio as far as redrawing that state's legislative maps are concerned. And as viewers know, maps are hugely consequential. They can literally determine the majority of the legislature, and we don't get this opportunity to revisit them often. So it is news when we do. Can you speak on what's going on with Ohio's legislative maps?
Yeah, I think their legislative maps are less of a drama and more of a horror. Like it's more in the horror genre than the drama, kind of like dark music and bad things happening.
Yeah.
Look, what's happening in Ohio is a national disgrace, and everyone should be paying attention to it because it is illustrative of the national trend of Republicans ignoring court orders and just being willing to do anything in order to achieve their goals and ignore democracy. So what's happened in Ohio is really simple. The Ohio voters had and legislature had an idea that they would have a redistricting commission. That redistricting commission would propose maps, and they thought all would be well. Well, of course, that commission is dominated by Republicans. And so what the Republicans did is they submitted a map. That map was illegal. It went to the state Supreme Court and got struck down. They submitted another map, went to the court, got struck down. Again, again, and again. 5 times they submitted maps and it got struck down. In fact, one of them was just the resubmission of an earlier map. So now they are back to having to draw a map again, and they're up to their old shenanigans. They're up to their old shenanigans, and they think that they're going to get away with another gerrymandered map because the composition of the Ohio Supreme Court, which always tilted Republican, is now tilts more Republican. So that is where we are in Ohio, and it is a national tragedy and a disgrace.
So the Ohio Supreme Court finds 5 sets of maps unconstitutional last year because they violated rules against gerrymandering. And of course, those gerrymanders benefit Republicans. This map that they're contending with right now would also benefit Republicans. So if it was unconstitutional, then why is this allowed?
Right. Look, this is the big question. Like, this is the big philosophical question that I get. And you and I have talked about this now in how many states? Like, right. We've had this question about Alabama. Like, why is it if they were ordered to draw 2 majority black districts, how come they were allowed not to? And there's probably no worse state than Ohio, because as you point out, literally they've done this 5 times and they're about to do it for the 6th time. And the only reason why they did it 5 times is because they don't care. They lack shame. And so the court could say, this map's not okay. You have to do this, and this map's not okay. And they just keep doing it. And they're doing it again now because in the interim, there has been a state Supreme Court election. And so the court is a little more conservative than it was. And so they figure, let's give it another roll. And this is just not how a democracy operates.
Right.
This is not how a responsible political party acts within a democracy. It's not how elected leaders, Frank LaRose, who is the Secretary of State, he's supposed to be in charge of free and fair elections in the state. He's one of the ringleaders here.
Yeah. I mean, I guess it really boils down to democracy is only so strong as the people who are charged with upholding it decide to. And so this is kind of like how democracy does fall when you have stuff like this happening. Mark, these maps would create a 23-10 advantage for Republicans in the state Senate and a 62-37 advantage in the state House. If there is a proportionality requirement in the Ohio state constitution and Ohio is roughly 54-46 Republican to Democrat, then how do any of the maps like this one stand? Like, even if the state Supreme Court are a bunch of far-right hacks, the law is still clear here.
I agree. Look, I agree with you. Yeah. It is the 2 most frustrating places in America for me right now are Wisconsin, where the Republicans in the legislature literally want to impeach a justice who just won an 11-point landslide election because they fear that she is going to unrig their very, very gerrymandered maps.
Right.
Even though she hasn't done anything yet. She hasn't actually done that. They want to impeach her. And then Ohio, where they have ignored the state Supreme Court 5 times. They're now violating the state constitution, about to violate the state constitution, having done it 5 times and been adjudicated to have done it 5 times. They're ready to do it a 6th time. And democracy depends not just on free and fair elections, but it requires people to respect the outcome of processes, whether they like them or not. You have to respect the outcome of elections. You don't throw an insurrection if you don't like the outcome of election. And it requires that state legislatures, when courts order them to do things, when courts throw out their maps, it requires them to follow the law. And we're just seeing that being violated all over the place by Republicans.
Well, I guess the question becomes, is there any recourse when even the state's highest court goes rogue, as what seems will be the case in Ohio?
So it becomes real challenging, right? It becomes a real challenge about whether or not the people of Ohio are going to have recourse if the Ohio Supreme Court rules against them. I don't want to say there isn't, but normally the state Supreme Courts are the highest decision maker on the application of state law and the interpretation of their state constitutions. So whether there is some kind of federal claim that can be brought, I think we're going to have to wait and see what the map looks like and what exactly the state Supreme Court says. But look, democracy is, I keep hearing people say democracy on the ballot. I say democracy is on the docket. Democracy is under a lot of stress and strain right now. And in state after state where Republicans control the process, it is starting to falter. Those stress and strains are taking a toll. The Trump years took a toll. And frankly, the post-Trump years are taking an even worse toll. So, we're not going to give up the fight in Ohio. Others are not going to give up the fight in Ohio. But I don't have any pat solutions there.
By the way, just as a quick aside, you mentioned democracy being on the docket. Marc's news outlet that he founded for everything voting in elections is called Democracy Docket. To subscribe for that, that's a free news outlet. The link is right here on the screen. So while you're watching, you can click that link and make sure to sign up. Doesn't cost you anything. Marc, on the issue of the Ohio State Supreme Court being the highest authority in that state, is there a possibility, is there precedent for something like this being able to hop over to the federal court system to be, adjudicated by the U.S. Supreme Court, for example?
So look, you can always appeal the state Supreme Court to the U.S. Supreme Court if there's a federal claim, if there's some federal U.S. constitutional claim or
well, could just the issue of the fact that the House of Representatives, like the seats within the House of Representatives will be impacted by what's happening in Ohio, could that make it a federal claim or no?
Well, so this is the state legislative map, not the congressional map.
Okay.
This was the congressional map for sure. But in a state legislative, this normally would end the state Supreme Court. But look, there are clauses of the Constitution. One of them, for example, requires that states have what is referred to as a Republican form of government. The idea is that you have rule of law, you have democracy, you have elections that have consequences, you have branches of government, you have an independent judiciary. Those are guaranteed by the U.S. Constitution. There's very little precedent for claims under that because states have not really transgressed that. But again, I'm not going to say that there is not going to be or can't be further litigation challenging what comes out of Ohio. But I don't want people watching this to think that this is necessarily a place where the courts are going to save us. We're going to need everyone listening to speak out and to put pressure on the Wisconsin legislature, the Ohio legislature, bring public attention to this like you do every day, because otherwise, democracy will die in darkness.
Okay, well, to that point, on another issue that I do think will drive turnout and hopefully end us up with some semblance of better representation than we would have without it, can you just speak on the status of an abortion rights amendment in the state of Ohio?
Yeah. So as you know, there's nothing that Republicans fear more now than abortion being on the ballot. It looks like Donald Trump is backpedaling as fast as he can, although I don't think that'll be successful. But it is literally going to be on the ballot in Ohio. The progressive organizations in Ohio put together a ballot initiative that would protect abortion rights in the state, would amend the state constitution to make it a state constitutional right. Republicans have done everything they can to block this. As you recall, first they tried to object to getting it on the ballot at all. Then, my favorite, if you remember, you and I talked about, they scheduled that weird August election. They were trying to kill it that way. That failed. And so it'll finally be on the ballot for a vote. It'll finally be an up or down vote on whether or not it is in the state constitution this November. And so everyone needs, if you're in Ohio, you need to make sure you are registered and you vote to protect a woman's right to choose in the state of Ohio.
Okay, well, we'll leave it there. Again, for anybody watching, to support Mark and his team, make sure to sign up for Democracy Docket. It's that news outlet that he founded that focuses on everything voting in elections. The link is right here on the screen. It's also in the post description of this video. I'm Brian Tyler Cohen.
I'm Marc Elias.
This is Democracy Watch.